The Arizona Cardinals are trying to get back to the playoffs for the first time since the 2021 season. The NFC West was a little crazy last year. Arizona, if you remember, they went 8-9, and they were in the mix in terms of the playoff hunt all the way until like mid-December. Ultimately, though, finishing 8-9, third in the NFC West, and missing the playoffs. You know, they have their quarterback in Kyler Murray. We're waiting for Marvin Harrison Jr. to kind of unleash and get to that next level, and it's a whole revamped defense there. What will 2025 bring for the Arizona Cardinals? And for that, let's welcome in our NFL analyst, Douzable. Duz, always good to see you. It is year 3 for Jonathan Gannon. We saw it there in 2023. They get 4 wins. They jumped to 8-9, and kind of in the playoff hunt deep into the regular season there. The following season, what kind of jump are you expecting to see for the Cardinals? What step forward here for the upcoming season in 2025?
Yeah, Jacqueline, expecting a major jump for the Jonathan Gannon-led Arizona Cardinals. You talked about it, the trajectory that they're on. 4 wins his first year, 8 wins last year. And to your point, playing meaningful games in December, it's been a while since the Arizona Cardinals were doing that. The one thing I love about Jonathan Gannon's team, I actually talked to him about this at the NFL League owners meetings, was how hard this team plays. You talked about it. They revamped their defense. They didn't have a lot of talent on that side of the ball, but he got the most out of those players. It's rare to turn on the tape and see guys continue to play hard week in and week out. And that's the one thing the Arizona Cardinals have done. So the trajectory arrow is going up this way, and I look forward for it to continue to go up that way.
We're going to talk more about that revamped defense in just a moment, but I want to talk about the offensive side of the ball because we know Kyler Murray, we know what he can do with his legs. He can put up crazy numbers. And then also Marvin Harrison Jr. has high expectations for a reason, right? We know the pedigree, the NFL pedigree that he comes from, and already in conversations in terms of receiving touchdowns by a rookie with some greats like Larry Fitzgerald. So what is it going to take for this connection with Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. to really get to the next level here?
Yeah, it's so funny that we're talking about this, Jacqueline, because after week 1 versus the Buffalo Bills and the lack of targets that Marvin Harrison Jr. got, Kyler Murray came out and said this is not his job to, find where Marvin Harrison Jr. was. Well, the lie detector determined that was a lie because the very next week, Marvin Harrison Jr. had 8 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. You got to be able to find your first-round pick on the outside, and you see Trey McBride there as well as one of the playmakers. He went over 1,100 yards, so he already has a nice rapport with his tight end, but you have to grow that same camaraderie, that same syncness with your number 1 receiver on the outside. We can talk about, him and Kyler Murray and also Marvin Harrison growing that connection. But the biggest thing to me, Jacqueline, is Kyler Murray has to take a big step. If the Arizona Cardinals are going to go where they think they can go, it's going to come down to Kyler Murray. When you look at last year, you talked about it, they were 6-4 heading into the bye week 11, right? Kyler Murray's playing really well. You see it right there. 16 total touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. Look at those last 7 weeks, Jacqueline. They went 2-5, only won 2 out of the last 7 games, 8 interceptions in that span. He doubled what he did in a 10-week span and only in the last 7 games. So he has to do a better job of taking care of the football. I go to games like the Minnesota Vikings, 2 errant interceptions in that game. A game against the Seattle Seahawks on 4th and 1. He has Michael Wilson wide open in the flat. He gets some pressure from Devin Witherspoon. He sails the ball. Kobe Bryant takes it the other way to the house. Now the Seahawks are up 14-3. And then just an inexcusable interception versus the Carolina Panthers in a game that was really close, that came down to the wire. He was supposed to throw the ball away, lazily kept it in play, gets picked off, ball goes the other way while they're in scoring opportunity. So for the Arizona Cardinals to get where they want to go, it's going to come down to Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and finishing better. You can't be finishing the final 7 games of the season 2-5 if you're trying to get to the playoffs. Let's go back to this revamped defense, right? And a big splash was getting Josh Sweat in the offseason. He's reuniting with his former D coordinator in Jonathan Gannon. And Leisha, you talked about it. Jonathan Gannon being able to get the best out of his players, specifically on the defensive side of the ball last year where there wasn't a lot of talent. Now you got a guy who's got a whole lot of talent and you're familiar with him. So how much of that familiarity how much is that going to make Josh Sweat an immediate impact player? How much does that help that he already knows Jonathan Gannon is familiar with his system?
Jacqueline, it's massive, and that's the reason why they wanted to do a deal with him, because they know he's coming in knowing what the system already entails. You talked about it, the relationship he has with Josh Sweat. They went to the Super Bowl after that 2022 season, 8 sacks last year, and you see the most pressures on that dominant Eagles D-line, Josh Sweat right there. But it's not just Josh Sweat. Walter Nolan in the first round, to me, was one of the best pass rushing 3 techniques and disruptors in this draft. You bring the Wiley vet, Calais Campbell, Davlin Tomlinson, B.J. Ojolari's coming off an injury last year where he missed the entire season, had a promising rookie year. You still have Zaven Collins there, who actually led the Arizona Cardinals with 5 sacks last year. So this is a refortified defensive line. And we didn't even talk about their former first-round pick, Darius Robinson, who missed the majority of last year but played really good those last 6 games of the season. That was the major issue. They didn't have the guys up front. People always talk about schematics, but Jacqueline, it comes down to the Jimmy and the Joes. They finally have the Jimmy and Joes up front now.
Yeah, 7 pressures in the Super Bowl there for Josh Sweat against the Chiefs, so that's going to be a massive addition. The time has come, Ligier, to get to a schedule prediction. We already talked about it, an 8-win season in 2024. They missed the playoffs. When you're looking at the schedule here, and Week 13 and beyond is kind of a tough stretch there with the Bucs, the Rams, the Texans, the Falcons, the Bengals, and the Rams again. But what is your schedule prediction for the Cardinals in 2025?
I have them going 12-5 and winning the NFC West. Jacqueline, you talked about the trajectory. 4 wins, 8 wins. Well, if you do the math, +4 equals 12 wins, right? And when you look at the schedule, they can make a real run weeks 1 through 7. When you look at playing the Saints, who are a revamped team, the Panthers, at the 49ers, they play the Seahawks at home, Titans at home, Colts, we don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback, and they play the Packers at home. But just like last year, it's going to come down to weeks 13 through 18. And Jacqueline, we spoke about it. That's where Kyler Murray really struggled. And right here on the schedule, you see it. That Rams game, all the way through the schedule, at Texans versus Falcons, at Bengals, at Rams, that's going to determine the success of this Arizona Cardinals team. And that's when they need Kyler Murray to be his best, because last year they were leading the division through week 11 and 12, and then they faltered down the stretch, losing 5 of 7. They cannot be in that same scenario this year. Again, comes down to Kyler Murray and him playing well down the back half of the schedule. But I believe the Arizona Cardinals will win the NFC West this year.
All right, these are lofty expectations. Winning the NFC West, getting 12 wins, which, like, our producer Jack did some research. They've only won more than 12, I think, once in the franchise history. So, Ligier, you have high expectations for them. This is the outlook. The win total, according to FanDuel out in Vegas, 8.5. They're +430 to win the division. Do you think this team, though, could then go beyond that and contend and win a Super Bowl?
I wouldn't put them in the Super Bowl realm. I do have them winning the division. I think they need one more year to get to that Super Bowl hump. Over that and get into a Super Bowl and win it. We talked about it earlier, right? The revamped defensive line, Kyler Murray with the weapons on the outside with Trey McBride and also Marvin Harrison Jr., right? The refortified defense. I like what they've done this offseason. I think it's going to put them in the thick of the NFC West. When you talk about teams like the San Francisco 49ers and LA Rams, don't have them quite getting to a Super Bowl, but I do believe the Cardinals make some noise and get into the playoffs and win the division.
All right, and again, we saw the odds, +430 for the Cardinals to win the division. Ligier, we certainly appreciate it. Talking expectations and schedule predictions for the Cardinals. By the way, you probably saw it there on the schedule. They open up things in Week 1 against the Saints. Make sure you check us out and stay locked into CBS Sports HQ in the offseason. During the season, we have everything you need. News, highlights, scores. It is all here on HQ, and it is all for free.